with improper pruning, because then you don't even realize where the pruning cuts were made because it's black.
Mm-hmm.
But more so, it doesn't give that wound the opportunity to breathe and what's called compartmentalize. And with proper pruning done at the right time, any wound on a tree can be compartmentalized or walled off, meaning internally. You know, you can see a callus form over years on a wound and seal it over.
Mm-hmm.
But internally, you have this walling off of this injury that doesn't allow any disease or any insect to penetrate internally. And by restricting the airflow with the tree wound paint, you're actually reducing the ability for that tree to compartmentalize. As well as, if you don't come back and retreat it every few years, and that seal begins to crack, and then you get water behind that cracked seal.
Right.
It's sort of like a tooth decay kind of thing.
It's kind of like humans if it, with a cut.
Absolutely.
If you keep it
It's
covered,
just like
it takes longer and longer to heal because it's
It's just like
Yep.
it. Absolutely.
this young tree right here. What is that?
Linden.
That's another linden.
Mm-hmm. Looks very happy. Somebody pruned it nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like there had been mulch around it. I think as much as you can, like every year or two,
Yeah.
after the mulch disintegrates, you know, put another 1.5 to 2.5-inch layer of mulch on at least a young tree.
Mm-hmm.
Is certainly beneficial for two reasons. Obviously, the roots don't have to compete with the grass that takes water and any nutrient in the soil. But more importantly, when they come around with the monofilament trimmers, they're not going to trim right up to bark, you know, and score the bark, which of course is the last thing you ever want.
Right.
Because that it's too late.
See that maple right there?
Yeah.
One of our workers years ago had taken out just a little maple that he found growing in the bed. He moved it there. Really? He said that'll be a good place for a tree. It took off.
I guess so. You know, Norway maples just get too big and overpowering, but it's there.
What's the difference between a regular maple and a Norway maple?
What do you mean by a regular maple?
I mean, I've always said that's a maple tree, but are they all Norway maples? No. So that's what I'm saying. What's the difference between what's termed as a maple tree or a Norway maple?
Well, there's no particular tree that is a maple tree.
Okay.
It's either
Different.
a Japanese maple,
Gotcha.
a Japanese red maple, a sugar maple, a silver maple,
Oh.
a sycamore maple, a Norway maple, a paper bark maple.
A lot of species of maples.
Oh, there's
Wow.
loads and loads of species of maples, and they're all very, very different.
See, I never knew that. Okay. Huh. I just thought a maple was a maple.
Somebody planted those.
That's Harry. He planted those there.
They look like they're either birch, thick birch, or good trees. They won't get overpoweringly large, but they'll provide a lot of nice shade. But see, they should be mulched,
Yeah.
because they're gonna get the monofilament trimmer, and then the bark is gonna get scored.
Mm-hmm.
And that bark is very smooth and very young and very tender.
Okay.
No matter how careful the men are gonna be.
They're still gonna hit them.
That's right. You can't not.
Yeah.
See, there's a Japanese red maple.
Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. And maple leaves all are typical of that 5-pointed.
They're either 5, meaning palmately lobed, or they're trifoliate with the 3.
Oh, okay.
See, now there's very good planning. Someone put that small red oak in,
Mm-hmm.
because eventually that huge oak behind it is not going to be there forever.
That's an oak behind it?
Well, no, that's a horse chestnut that has flowers on it.
Okay.
The big tree behind it.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Yes.
Now, I'm sure you have a copy there. That small one? That, well, first of all, it was a bad selection, because you never accept from any nursery a codominant terminal. You see what I mean? There's 2 terminals,
Right.
or 2 leaders there.
Uh-huh.
That's just, a situation that's looking for major breakage as that tree matures, just because of the point of connection of the 2.
Okay.
And what I would even do now, even though it's going to look a bit funny,
Mm-hmm.
is I would cut one of those terminals.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it now. I'd probably put it in my to-do list for like next February or March, because that's when compartmentalization occurs the best, is in
Okay.
February, March, and April,
Because they're dormant.
because they're and just starting to grow internally, with plant circulation.
Okay.
But the longer that's left like that,
Mm-hmm.
and it might take 40 years,
Right.
but 40 years later there'll either be a major breakage where half of the thing will come crashing down
Yeah.
and tear, or it will be a costly effort to cable it.
Right. Now, which one would you recommend taking?
There's no
Doesn't
hard
matter.
and fast rule.
No.
And actually, if you want to be even kinder,
Mm-hmm.
you could, once you select which of the 2 you're going to remove,
Mhm.
you could actually remove from that one, maybe 30 or 40% of the branches now, so the tree is already getting used to the fact it's going to have less.
Okay. Right.
And it looks like that
That
one
one as
next
well.
to it might have the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like it might be an easier determinant as to which one you do,
Right.
because one is stronger than the other.
I got you.
But I would still take that right
Right. I see what
one,
you're saying.
even though they're not as co-dominant as those other 2.
Mm-hmm.
I used to see tulip trees. You familiar with the tulip trees
Tulip
here?
trees.
Very distinctive leaf to them,
Yeah. I
and a
see that.
tulip-like flower that's
Huh.
green and
Yeah.
orange. They grow fast and big.
There was a tree down here. I don't know. Somewhere I might have a picture of it over the years, taking pictures of it. But it had a leader off it. This tree right here. Now this is it's a maple.
It's a Norway maple.
Yeah. And then this one here, this is it. This is the oak, right? There was a leader. You could see. Let's get out and take a look at this. The leader that came off of this tree, right there where they cut it, came down like an arm and was about 6 feet off the ground here.
I think I remember that.
And it was just so unique. And both last year, Mike and I were both so upset that Harry chose to have that removed, because it was just such a unique character. But he thought it was a really bad hazard. that sooner or later it would get. But I said if it broke, it's only got 6 feet to fall, and it's right here.
Yeah, see, I
You
never
know?
would have cut that.
No.
And I wouldn't have cut it for two reasons. Because, again, structurally, and the way branches connect onto a main stem, when you have a crotch angle, and you've almost got a 90-degree angle there,
Right.
you have a very strong point of connection. Whereas when you have a very acute angle on a crotch that might be 30 degrees or less, you have a very weak point of connection.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of why, and nurseries are supposed to do this when they grow trees, like they should have removed one of those
Right.
two terminals. If you have very sharp, acute branch connections, they should be removed. When the tree is young and the wound is small, that wound will never heal.
Right.
And for a tree of this magnitude to have a wound not heal is not a good idea.
Right.
And you know what could have easily enough been done if it was that low? And they do this in England a lot, only the British would, they're crazy enough, is they would put underneath it like a wishbone. You know, they would find some big limb, something that's going to be substantial,
Right.
and they would prop it up under it so there's no way it would fall.
Right.
And that, of course, would be even more of a curiosity, which would
Right.
be cool.
Right.
But
Right.
that's...
Yeah, it was a shame. We were both upset when he did. We tried to talk him out of it, but he wanted it done. Like how that
Is that a stone
Yeah.
there?
we have quite a few. I'm going to take you by over here. I'm going to show you an actual tombstone. This is a marking pillar from a plot that it's grown around. But we actually have, I'm going to show you a couple of tombstones that we're going to have to take the tree. There's going to be no other recourse but to remove the tree in order to free up this tombstone because it's completely grown around someone's tombstone. This tree over here, we lost the whole top half of the tree to one of the storms, and Harry just had the top cut flush and felt that the growth sprouting from the sides would be enough that it would, and it's coming along. It's not too aesthetically pleasing.
The problem with this fill is,
The cavity on that'll develop on top.
well, it certainly has that. That's never going to heal.
Right.
But every one of these little adventitious shoots
Right.
that are produced by buds that are internal in that tree.
Right.
And the only reason they've been caused to sprout is because it lost its top. And it needed more leaves to
Right.
photosynthesize. Every one of these shoots where they come out, not the big branches, but these young things, have a very, very, very weak internal point of connection to the structure of the trunk. So as these limbs get bigger,
You're gonna
they
get weaker.
are very, very vulnerable to ice and wind and any kind of storm damage.
Right. Okay.
You know, it's not going to matter for a while,
Mhm.
but you know, if this was like near a house,
You wouldn't want to do
you
that.
wouldn't- that's right.
Okay. I actually have a neighbor behind me, 2 houses down, that did this to a huge a maple in the backyard, and it's a maple or an oak, and I said to my wife, I says, I don't understand what they did. I thought they were actually in the process of taking the whole tree down, but they didn't. And I said they did exactly what Harry has done at work, where they're leaving the growth to blossom so that they do have shape, but they eliminated all the huge leaders that were a hazard around their property.
They were probably paranoid
Yeah.
because of Sandy.
So, but basically what they did now is they created another hazard down
Absolutely.
down the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and there are enough arboricultural firms out there, you know, that won't try to educate their clients that that's not the thing to do.
Right.
In fact, a lot of them are selling that kind of pruning now
Right.
because people are so paranoid.
you know,